Welcome back to Grim Advice with Gretta Myers. You've entered the grimoire. Let's turn the page together. Alright, today, under a different title, entering the ring, oh boy, is Little Red Cap, or if you haven't guessed already, Little Red Riding Hood. No, I did not get these painted just for the story. I don't know what you're talking about. Once upon a time, there was a dear little girl who was loved by everyone who looked at her, but most of all by her grandmother, and there was nothing that she would not have given to the child. Once she gave her a little cap of red velvet, which suited her so well that she would never wear anything else, so she was always called Little Red Cap. One day the mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Cap, here is a piece of cake and a bottle of wine. Take them to your grandmother. She is ill and weak, and they will do her good. Set out before it gets hot, and when you are going, walk nicely and quietly, and do not run off the path, or you may fall and break the bottle. Then your grandmother will get nothing, and when you go into her room, don't forget to say good morning, and don't peep into every corner before you do it." "I will take great care," said Little Red Cap to her mother, and gave her hand on it. The grandmother lived out in the wood, half a league from the village, and just as Little Red Cap entered the wood, a wolf met her. Red Cap did not know what a wicked creature he was, and was not at all afraid of him. "Good day, Little Red Cap," said he. "Thank you kindly, wolf. Where do you go so early, Little Red Cap?" "To my grandmother's." "What have you got in your apron?" "Cake and wine. Yesterday was baking day, so poor sick grandmother is to have something good to make her stronger." "Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Cap?" "A good quarter of a league farther on in the wood. Her house stands under the 3 large oak trees. The nut trees are just below. You surely must know it," replied Little Red Cap. The wolf thought to himself, "What a tender young creature! What a nice plump mouthful! She will be better to eat than the old woman. I must act craftily so as to catch both." So he walked for a short time by the side of Little Red Cap, and then he said, "See, Little Red Cap, how pretty the flowers are about here. Why do you not look around? I believe, too, that you do not hear how sweetly the little birds are singing. You walk gravely along as if you were going to school, while everything else out here in the woods is merry." Little Red Cap raised her eyes, and when she saw the sunbeams dancing and there through the trees and pretty flowers growing everywhere, she thought, "Suppose I take grandmother a fresh nosegay. That would please her too. It is so early in the day that I shall still get there in good time." And so she ran from the path into the wood to look for flowers. And whenever she picked one, she fancied that she saw a still prettier one farther on, and ran after it, and so got deeper and deeper into the wood. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to the grandmother's house and knocked on the door. "Who is there?" "Little Red Cap," replied the wolf. "She is bringing cake and wine. Open the door." "Lift the latch," called out the grandmother. "I am too weak and cannot get up." The wolf lifted the latch, and the door flew open, and without saying a word, he went straight to the grandmother's bed and devoured her. Then he put on her clothes, dressed himself in her cap, laid himself in bed, and drew the curtains. Little Red Cap, however, had been running about picking flowers, and when she had gathered so many she could carry no more, she remembered her grandmother and set out on the way to her. She was surprised to find the cottage door standing open, and when she went into the room, she had such a strange feeling that she said to herself, "Oh dear, how uneasy I feel today, and at other times I like being with grandmother so much." She called out, "Good morning," but received no answer, so she went to the bed and drew back the curtains. There lay her grandmother with her cap pulled far over her face, and looking very strange. "Oh, grandmother," she said, "what big ears you have." "The better to hear you with, my child," was the reply. "But grandmother, what big eyes you have," she said. "The better to see you with, my dear." "But grandmother, what large hands you have, the better to hug you with." "Oh, but grandmother, what a terrible big mouth you have, the better to eat you with." And scarcely had the wolf said this than with one bound he was out of bed and swallowed up Red Cap. When the wolf had appeased his appetite, he lay down again in the bed, fell asleep, and began to snore very loud. The hunter was just passing the house and thought to himself, "How the old woman is snoring! I must see if she wants anything. So he went into the room, and when he came to the bed, he saw that the wolf was lying in it. Do I find you here, you old sinner, said he. I have long sought you. Then, just as he was going to fire at him, it occurred to him that the wolf might have devoured the grandmother, and that she might still be saved, so he did not fire, but took a big pair of scissors and began to cut open the stomach of the sleeping wolf. When he had made 2 snips, he saw the little red cap shining, and when he had made 2 snips more, the little girl sprang out crying, "Oh, how frightened I have been! How dark it was inside the wolf!" And after the aged grandmother came out alive also, but scarcely able to breathe. Redcap, however, quickly fetched great stones, with which they filled the wolf's body, and when he awoke, he wanted to run away, but the stones were so heavy that he fell down at once, and fell dead. Then all 3 were delighted. The hunter drew off the wolf's skin and went home with it. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine which Redcap had brought, and revived, but Redcap thought to herself, "As long as I live, I will never by myself leave the path to run into the wood, and when my mother has forbidden me to do so." It is also related that once when Redcap was taking cakes to the old grandmother, another wolf spoke to her, and tried to entice her from the path. Redcap, however, was on her guard, and went straight forward on her way, and told her grandmother that she had met the wolf, and that he had said good morning to her, but with such a wicked look in his eyes, that if they had not been on the public road, she was certain he would have eaten her up. "Well," said the grandmother, "we will shut the door, that he may not come in." Soon afterwards the wolf knocked and cried, "Open the door, grandmother, I am little Redcap, and I am fetching you some cakes." But they did not speak or open the door, so the greybeard stole twice or thrice around the house, and at last jumped on the roof, intending to wait until Redcap went home in the evening, and then to steal after her and devour her in the darkness. But the grandmother saw what was in his thoughts. In front of the house was a great stone trough, so she said to the child, "Take the pail, Redcap. I made some sausages yesterday, so carry the water in which I boiled them to the trough." Redcap carried until the great trough was quite full. Then the smell of the sausages reached the wolf, and he sniffed and peeped down, and at last stretched his neck so far that he could no longer keep his footing, and began to slip down from the roof straight into the great trough, and drowned. But Redcap went joyously home, and never did anything to harm anyone. Okay. Let's see. Let's take a look. See. Okay. I honestly, personally, prefer the Red Riding Hood because obviously I'm a cloak girl. I like things with hoods. Clearly. So I don't personally like the cap as much, but I understand that it really doesn't matter for the point of the story. So, okay. Oh my goodness. So, I don't have anything else to say unless I find myself wrong later. But, except for this important dialectic toast. On the one hand, Little Red Riding Hood is young and innocent, and that gets her into trouble in the end. I mean, her grandmother and she get eaten. That's trouble if I ever heard it. However, that innocence is honestly such a gift because she's not scared of the wolf when he comes. She's not afraid of him. Granted, it's also kind of a bad thing because she's like, oh yeah, my grandmother lives exactly here. Down, 2 miles. She basically gave him GPS directions. But honestly, so on the one hand, her innocence and her youth and that whole experience where she's not afraid. She doesn't need to be afraid because she doesn't know that she would ever need to be afraid. of this wolf. Speaking of the wolf, there was another wolf brought up in the 7 Little Kids story. How big are these wolves? Because he cuts the wolf's stomach open and they're still in there. So that's the thing. Okay, on the other hand, is that later, which I love that this story shows that later her experience was different than it was, like, she learned stuff, which is amazing. She becomes afraid of the wolf. She becomes hardened. Well, but she becomes much more a different person. So, you might be wondering, Greta, which is better? Do I be innocent and not afraid and can enjoy life? Or do I be prepared and be cautious and be wary of everything and don't trust any wolves? How about we come to the middle? There will be times when you experience things that will leave you biased and will leave you afraid of certain types of people or certain places, certain phrases even. And that's normal because everyone goes through hard things in their life, and sometimes it's associated to certain people or places or things that have been said or done. Now, on the one hand, it is so important to be cautious because there's so many people and things out there that can hurt you and want to hurt you because they're not good people or places or things or concepts. On the other hand, it doesn't feel good to feel like you have to be on guard all the time. To feel like if you let your guard down, you're gonna get hurt. So to stay up and never let anything in. Granted, in this story, the wolves both times were bad and evil, but sometimes, let's say you had a bad experience with someone named Anna. Throwing it out there. You had a bad experience with someone named Anna. And so then every Anna you come to, you're like, can't trust them. Here's my little walls. Because people named Anna are bad. Is that good or healthy? No. So I'm coming to the middle. On the one hand, innocence is great. Being innocent allows you to just be more free and happy and just not afraid because you haven't experienced anything. And honestly, sometimes when people make comments that you're like, oh, so dumb. How could they make something, or so insensitive, or if people just do things that you're like, what? Honestly, sometimes it's simply because they haven't experienced something that has taken that level of fear and innocence away. And that's okay. That's valid. Sometimes it's really hard when you're sitting here on the other side, where you've had some unpleasant things in your life happen to you, and then someone comes in and is like, well, it's not that big of a problem. Well, it's whatever. Or just that they don't just... Here's a reminder that most of the time, it's not because they're trying to hurt you. It's because they don't know. They don't know, because they've never been through anything like that. So, here we have that innocence on the one hand, which comes with ups and downs. We have, on the other hand, experience, which can suck, frankly. And experience is important. You learn and grow from experience, and learn and grow and figure out what kind of people you like to be around, what kind of things hurt you, and what things you're sensitive to or not sensitive to. So on one and also you might find yourself a little bit paranoid, a little bit scared about things that could happen to you because you've been through or heard about or seen things that you're like, I don't like that. I don't want that to happen to me again or happen to me. So I'm going to just hide. In my case, badly. I am wearing all black though, so. But honestly, let's come to the middle. Find ways to take both. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. They're polar opposites. You can't take both. What have I been teaching you all this time about dialectic toast? Two opposite truths. You spread the jam. Because they're both true on the toast. Take both. Take the innocence and the feeling of being not afraid. Knowing you don't have to be afraid. Or, hold on, the feeling of, I'm not afraid. And take the feeling of, I know things now. And put it together to maybe make, I don't have to be afraid because I know things. Concept. Throw it out there. I don't have to be afraid because I know things. It doesn't have to be these two separate, painful truths with their own cons and pros. You can take them both, the pros and the cons, and you can just, ta-da! Beautiful. I don't have to be afraid because I know things. Because you know things, I don't have to be afraid. See? Feels nice. Say it. Juggle it around your hands like I'm doing. You know, party it up. Because, so let's say something happens and you're afraid for a while. Because that's valid. That's understandable. Totally normal. And then maybe you do some things to make you feel more confident and powerful in yourself again. So that you feel like you could handle yourself better if that ever happened again. And then you come back to, I know things. So I don't have to be afraid. Yeah? Honestly, it's such a powerful statement. And that way, it's not innocence or experience alone. It's just this kind of combination of wisdom and confidence and feeling powerful. How does that feel to you? That feels pretty great to me. Just saying, personally. It feels pretty awesome to say. Instead of just having to be, I know things or I don't know things. I'm not afraid or I'm afraid. Because I know things, I don't have to be afraid. That feels pretty great. Well, thank you for joining us for this happily ever after. Or not so happily ever after. But to me, it was. But that's up to you to decide, and that's valid. This is the end for this episode, and yeah. It's been good, so tune in later and we can turn a new page together.